And now we're going to tell you a traditional Russian version of Thelma and Louise on the Hook. We call it
Gifts from Heaven.
There was once a peasant who owned a goat and a sheep. They were the very best of friends. Where one was,
the other was not far behind.
If Nanny the goat went splashing through a mud puddle, you may be sure that Baba the sheep was not far behind.
And if Nanny went crashing through the peasant's wattle fence, Baba was sure to follow. One day they broke into the peasant's orchard and began eating the apples right off the trees. When the peasant saw them, he cried,
"That's the last straw. Those two will eat us out of house and home if we don't eat them first. Tonight, we dine on mutton and roast goat."
Well, when the peasant hurried off to sharpen his axe, Nanny said,
"Baba, you know how I said it might be nice to see the world sometime?"
"Yes, Nanny, I have often heard you say that."
"Now might be a good time."
They stopped just long enough for Nanny to pick up an old sack she found lying in the orchard. Then they ran and ran until they had run out of breath.
I think we lost him. I think we'll be all right. But we better keep going anyway, Baba. Why don't you take a turn carrying the sack?
"What's the sack for, Nanny?"
To keep our belongings in, of course.
"But, Nanny, we don't have any belongings."
Baba, look, there, at the side of the road. Surely it's a gift from heaven. Now we shall have something to keep in our sack.
"Oh, gross, it's a dead wolf's head."
You never know, Baba. It might come in handy sometime. Now, why don't you put it into the sack?
"Why me? Why not you?"
I asked you first.
"It's covered in germs and cooties and it smells terrible. I'm not going to touch it."
What if we did it together?
"Oh, all right. I will if you will."
They each picked up an ear and together they dropped it into the sack. Then Baba threw it over her shoulder and they walked
And walked until it grew dark. "Nanny, I'm cold and tired and my feet hurt. Isn't it time for dinner?"
Baba, look, up ahead. Surely it is another gift from heaven.
"I'm not sure I want any more gifts from heaven."
Come on, Baba, look, it's a campfire. We can warm ourselves by the fire, and then we'll be safe from the wolves.
"You didn't tell me there were wolves around here."
Well, of course there are wolves. What do you think you've got in that sack, an Easter bonnet? But never mind. Just let me do the talking. Perhaps I can talk the people who that fire belongs to into sharing dinner with us as well.
Well, when Nanny and Baba stepped into the firelight, they were horrified to see 3 ferocious wolves sitting around the campfire, waiting for a pot of porridge to cook. It was too late to run. The wolves had already seen them, so Nanny put on a bold face.
Good evening, Brother Wolves. My sister and I join you for dinner?
The biggest, shaggiest wolf said.
We'd love to have you for dinner. Brothers, weren't we just saying a bit of meat would taste good in our porridge? Well, what must be, I suppose. But as long as you have to wait for the porridge to cook anyway, I'm sure you wouldn't mind if my sister and I had a little bite to eat. Last meal sort of thing. Bubba, fetch me a wolf head from the sack.
Baba pulled the dead wolf's head out of the sack.
Not that one, Baba. Don't be stingy. Get me a bigger one.
But Nanny...
Baba. Now. You know there are plenty to choose one. I'm very hungry. Get me a bigger one.
There was nothing for Baba to do but put the dead wolf's head into the sack and pull it right back out again.
No, Baba. Not that one either. Get me a really big one. I told you, I'm starving.
Well, when the wolves saw the dead wolf's head, they became very uneasy. They had never seen a sheep with a bag full of dead wolf's heads, each one bigger than the last. One wolf stood up and said,
Oh, look, the fire seems to be burning down. Why don't I go into the woods and fetch us some more firewood?
Off he went, slinking into the forest, congratulating himself on his clever escape.
It wasn't long before the second wolf stood up and said,
Now it seems to me this porridge needs a bit of water to thin it. I'll go fetch some.
Off he went slinking into the woods, grateful to escape with his life.
The third wolf said,
Where could those brothers of mine be? Perhaps they got lost. Why don't I just go see if I can find them quickly before the porridge burns?
As soon as he'd gone slinking off into the bushes, Nanny said,
Now's our chance.
The starving goat and sheep fell upon the porridge and gobbled up every last bite.
That really hit the spot, Baba.
Nanny, what if the wolves come back?
Good question. We'll find a hiding place. Somewhere the wolves can't find us.
Oh, Nanny. Not another gift from heaven.
Yes, Baba, look at the size of that tree. We will climb up that tree and hide in those branches. Everyone knows wolves can't climb trees.
But Nanny, neither can goats or sheep.
With a pack of hungry wolves on their heels, they can. Now, get up that tree.
I'll try, but I just know I'm going to be sick.
Meanwhile, the wolves met up in the woods. They got to thinking,
Why should 3 ferocious wolves be afraid of a goat and a sheep?
what fools we were, brothers. We're going to march right back into that camp, and we are going to demonstrate how the food chain works.
But when the wolves returned to the fire, they saw no trace of the goat or the sheep. They searched
and they
searched till finally...
Brothers, do you hear a strange knocking sound?
Why, yes, they did.
They followed it straight to the foot of the big tree.
The sound was Baba's knees knocking together as she clung to a branch and shook with fear.
Ha! Now we've got them. But how did they get up in that tree? Everyone knows goats and sheep can't climb trees. But these ones could. Nanny was in the top branches. Baba, who was afraid of heights, was clinging to a much lower branch. So it was at Baba that those angry wolves jumped and snapped and snarled. She was so frightened, she let go of her branch. She lost her grip, she went tumbling to the ground, and she fell smack right on top of the biggest wolf of all.
Now, Nanny saw what had happened, but she kept her wits about her. From the top branches of the tree, she called down,
"Good work, sister! You found the fattest one of all! Now bring him up straight away, for I told you I'm starving!"
When the wolves heard that, they nearly jumped out of their skins. Not one of them wanted to become a meal for a vicious wolf-eating goat. They ran off so fast they left a cloud of dust behind them.
Nanny and Baba slept very well that night. They woke up refreshed and eager to see the world. Baba picked up the sack with the dead wolf head in it, and she said,
"What do we do with this, Nanny?"
"Why, we'll keep it, of course. You never know, sister. It might come in handy sometime."
And you may be sure that it did. But that is another story.